GTA? GTA? More like Dream Team, eh? Let's get into this, man. Alright, so the most important game that everyone is talking about today has come out. Sonic Dream Team. So we have played it, we have beaten it, and it's time to give our thoughts on it. Is it a great game? Is it a great mobile game? Is it gunning for frontiers? Well, I mean, the answer is yes and no. So we'll get to all this right now. But subscribe to the channel already, please make sure to subscribe, okay? Now let me not keep you guys waiting, because I know you're getting ready for the point where he goes, Prem's about to hate on something. No, I'm not about to hate on something, okay? I don't think Dream Team is better than Sonic Frontiers, but it does prove that Hardlight has got potential. And if they were given a budget that was, you know, the levels that Kishimoto's been getting, maybe we would see something on a level of Frontiers, right? So let's break it down. Okay, for those of you who don't want to cop an Apple device to play the Sonic, I mean, what kind of Sonic disciples are you? Sonic Dream Team is basically a game with 4 worlds. There's a boss level at the end of every world, and there's a bunch of acts in the 4 worlds. Now, it's not the same amount of acts in every world, it's different, and there's multiple missions inside every single act. The first mission basically being get to the end, and then you've got to collect the Dream Orb, which is basically a different version of the level, but still get to the end. And then you've got reach each checkpoint within the time limit, which is basically get to the end, but you have to go through the checkpoints in order, otherwise it doesn't count. And then you've also got get to the end within a certain amount of time, which is basically get to the end again. And then you've got the one that isn't really get to the end, which is collect 6 Dream Orb shards, which is basically like emerald hunting, but no real like tough radar. Like, it just basically tells you where everything is, and you just have to follow the map and you'll get it. Basically, it's not hard. Also, sometimes when they get to the end levels, there'll be like a gate that you can't get through without like 3 keys, and you have to like search for those 3 keys within the level. They tell you where they are basically, but you have to go and get them to be able to open the door. On top of that, the first mission, which is basically like the standard get to the end, also has red rings and blue coins. You get those, you get orbs as well. So beating all these missions gets you orbs, getting the red rings and the blue coins gets you orbs. I think the red rings and the blue coins also get you like some statues and that you can look at in the menus. There's nothing really special about them, but they're there. To progress to the next act, remember there's missions within acts, and then there's acts, and then after the acts you get to the boss, and then you get to the next world. To get to the next act, you have to have a certain amount of orbs. They gatekeep progression with these orbs. So earlier on in the game you might be able to do a couple missions and then get to the next act, and then later on in the game it might be like you have to do all 5 missions or all 6 missions, and then later on in the game it might be like even that's not enough, you have to go back and backtrack and do more. Obviously, if you play the game in a way of like doing every single mission first, then you might not have to backtrack as much, but there are some missions that don't show up, or you're not allowed to play until you unlock certain characters, because you start off with the speed characters first, then you unlock the flight characters, then you unlock the power characters. Well, I don't really call them power characters, the glide characters, the climbing characters, right? So you can't even do all the missions in perfect order when you still have to unlock everything first, so just keep that in mind, okay? Most of these challenges are not hard for someone like me who's a seasoned Sonic fan who is playing with a controller. Obviously, for a kid on a tablet, these will probably be a bit more challenging, because there were a few time-based challenges that I had to retry because I died, and when you die it doesn't kind of start you from the beginning, it just keeps you going so the time is still running. For that tablet demographic, the challenge is fine, right? I still would have preferred that they added at least a ranking system, so if you got a time-based challenge that's like beat this level within 2 minutes 15 seconds, maybe a bonus challenge of like do it in 1:45 for like an S rank. I don't know, that would have been cool to see. Or for the collect the 6 Dream shards or whatever, there's like no real timer on that, you can just take as long as you want. If there was like a collect the shards within a minute you get an S rank, that would be crazy. Then I got an incentive to do it faster and replay to get that S rank. There was also some Tails based challenges which are supposed to be harder. I didn't do all of them because apparently they reset frequently, like weekly or something, I don't know, but I tried one and it was cool. It wasn't like super hard or anything, but again, I didn't try all of them. They're not required for main progression of the game, and it unlocks like when you're halfway into the game, so it's kind of like a bonus thing. I think the progression system is fine for a phone game. I have no issues with it really. So I guess there's 6 categories we need to talk about when it comes to this game. You got level design, you got graphics, you got physics, you got music, you got bosses, and you got story. I'm probably not gonna go in that order, but I'm gonna go through all of those categories. First, we'll start with story. Well, it's not quite on the narrative level of Inception, but you know, they tried. The story is a phone game story. Don't expect anything crazy, okay? Don't go into this thinking, oh, the story, okay? The voice acting is mostly bad. I was actually joking about how like back in the days of the Sonic games, like Tails' voice was always the worst one, and everyone else was like so much stronger than Tails. And now it's like completely flipped, where like Tails is like the only consistent voice, and everyone else is like ranging from mid to bad. Like Rouge sounds like, I don't know, like she used to sound like she worked the Hooters, and now she just sounds like Minnie Mouse 2.0. I don't know. Amy still pretty much sounds like Meta Era Amy. Cream sounds horrible. I don't know why she sounds so naggy. Knuckles is like, I think it's the TSR voice, and Roger is Roger, okay. REM has a good voice, actually. I like her voice. Kind of reminds you of Blaze in 06. But yeah, don't play this for the story, okay? Don't do that, okay? We've talked about story enough. That's all we need to say. Oh yeah, Eggman's in the game. Just like Frontiers, he kind of has a smaller role than you'd expect, right? Because like he's there, but he's not there much until the end. So that is what it is, right? And on the topic of Eggman, I guess you should talk about bosses, okay? Eggman is only in the final boss, which there's a boss every world. So that's like 4 bosses. Most of them are pretty forgettable. When I say most of them, I mean like pretty much all of them. The final boss, you don't even hit Eggman yourself. You just run around and do stuff. You know, like in Unleashed, when you're doing like the Dark Gaia shit, like when you have to like use Sonic to like boost on those little platforming sections before you get to him kind of thing, before the epic part. That's like the whole boss, but just not as epic, right? It's still fun, but you know, like the boss is nothing special, okay? Like think about the time and effort it took to beat those long ass Superstars bosses, and then imagine this is the complete opposite. It's like very short, very underwhelming, obviously designed to be played with like touch controls, so they don't want to push you too much, I guess. You know, kids are going to be playing this on 10-year-old iPads. So now we talked about story, we talked about bosses. What's left? Okay, let's go music. Okay, music was not good. It was phone game quality, and I don't even like to use phone games as an excuse for the music to be mid. Maybe the budget wasn't high enough to hire T-Lopes, but there are instances of phone games that got good music, right? Sonic Runners had a beautiful soundtrack. I love that sound. I could genuinely play those songs, especially Tails theme. Like this was not that, okay? The music was just, it was not good. You see, with graphics, and I'm transitioning to another point here. With graphics, there's a good excuse, right? Because this is an Apple Arcade game. Apple Arcade runs on iPhones as low as 6S, which the 6S came out in, I believe, 2014 or 2015. Even I still have a 6S, and I've been on Android since when Runners came out. Like, actually, when Runners came out was when I switched to Android. Yeah, for those of you who thought I was team iPhone, I'm not. I was playing this on a MacBook Pro, M1 Max, and it was running at, I believe, 4K, and it did lag a little bit, but mostly ran at 60 FPS. So the fact that it has to run on 2015 mobile hardware goes to show why the graphics are not going to be that great. Obviously, if you port it into a game like Frontiers with better lighting and better you-know-what's, like, it's going to stand out more, which we'll talk about that in a second because Beats has been cooking. So I can excuse the graphics not being the greatest because I know it's a phone game. I have to give it slack for that. I have to. But with music, there's no real excuse, right? One of the greatest phone games of all time, Jetpack Joyride, has got amazing music. Fruit Ninja, one of the greatest phone games of all time, has got amazing music. Sonic Runners, one of my favorite phone games of all time, has got amazing music. Man, even Cube Runner had catchier music than, man, Cube Runner shit used to go hard. Remember Cube Runner? Remember the Impossible game? Like, man, that shit was hinging on the music. It was just squares moving and shit, but the music was like, I need to beat the level just to hear the song. Like, the fuck? This music was not hitting, okay? Bro thought he was cooking. He was not cooking. The shit was off. He opened the shit and the potatoes were still dried as fuck. So we talked about story, bosses, music, and graphics. That leaves level design and physics. This is where it gets interesting, all right? The level design is very, very solid. It is very good level design, okay? I cannot hate on the level design at all. It shows that there's real talent behind this team, behind whatever small budget they had to make this little iPad experience or whatever. You can tell that there's real heart in the level design. Like, it was genuinely fun to play through, but I do believe it is held back by its physics/control. Why do I say this? Because obviously it's a phone game, right? It needs to be played with touch controls. I played it with a DualSense controller, but you can clearly see it was made for touch controls because they limit the amount of things you can do. It's really just running, boosting, and then like homing attacking, right? There's no drop dash, there's no stomp, there's no air boost, there's no quick step because that'll be too much for touch controls. And it gets to the point where you enter this murky gray area, right? Because it's like, your level design is pretty quality, and if you ported this into a game with better movement, I would like it more. So it's like that having to make it a mobile game has actually held it back from being a more enjoyable experience effectively. And it's kind of like the weird gray area of a game like this, right? When you make a mobile game that could be on consoles or could be on PC, then people start to compare it to console games and PC games, even though it's still a mobile game. Because I was starting to get that feeling, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking, if I was a kid playing this on an iPad, this would be the coolest thing ever, right? On my iPad, like, we used to play Cube Runner and cut the rope. this compared to that, I mean, like, this is pretty expensive, right? But then you get your M1 Max MacBook Pro laptop, connect your HDMI cable and play it with a DualSense. Now you're starting to feel like this is what I do when I'm playing console games and PC games. It's starting to feel like I should mentally start comparing it to that. So it's like, oh, it's a bit weird because like with a game like Sonic Dash, it's through and through a phone game. No one wants to play Sonic Dash on the big screen, right? Runners is a tap to jump. Everything you do is just by tapping the screen. That's it. If you want to select the wisp, it's on the screen in the HUD. If you want to jump, you tap. Everything you do in Runners is tap. It's blatantly a mobile game. It's designed with that simplicity in mind. So I would never think to compare it properly to main series titles. But when you make a fully 3D game, and mind you, Sonic Dream Team is the first fully 3D Sonic game since Sonic 06. Now I'm gonna start to go, I guess I should kind of compare this to main series entries, even though it costs nowhere near as much. But it's that feeling of it's fully 3D, I'm playing it with a controller, it's got like full-blown levels and shit. I mean, why shouldn't I compare it, right? It's got more 3D than Colors. May not be as graphically as enhanced as a game like Colors or Lost World or Generations, but it's more 3D than those games. It's got a story, it's got ending, like, I mean, no Super Sonic, but neither did Lost World, neither did Colors, at least in terms of the boss. The length is not significantly lower than, say, a Colors. I mean, Colors is mainly 2x, and the rest were just extra X just spliced on top. In terms of the amount of content you're getting, it's not significantly less than something that has come out in the main series in the meta era. So it feels like I should compare it. And hey, like, maybe there is more talent here than they're being given credit for, right? Because the level design that I saw could have gone into the main series and it would have fit really well, okay? Was it Generations level of quality in terms of level design? No. But if we take a look at something like Sonic Frontiers, this game and the missions and levels in this game could have been cyberspace, obviously touched up with nicer graphics and controls designed for an actual controller, not touch controls. This level design could have been cyberspace, and the game would have been better because of it. I don't think I would pick this game in its current state over the open zone in Frontiers, okay? The open zone has a bigger budget going for it, even though I believe that the level designers of Sonic Dream Team probably understand Sonic level design a lot better than Kishimoto does. But I still would not pick this in its current state over Frontiers open zone. But if you scrap cyberspace and just use the open zone physics in cyberspace and then use these levels with better music and obviously Frontiers level graphics, Frontiers would have been a better game because of it. I mean, I gave Frontiers a B tier, but if these levels are cyberspace with the missions and whatnot, I probably would have given Frontiers an A tier, real talk. And I said multiple times when I was playing the game on my stream that this could have been ported into Frontiers or modded into Frontiers and it would have been better. And Beats is already trying it, and he said he's done nothing to the graphics. He just puts it into cyberspace and it already looks stronger graphically. That's the beauty of lighting engines and things like that. I even went a step further and said if you ported these levels into PO6, it would be fire. Because on top of that, there's some sound effects issues as well. Like, they're using these older Sonic Dash sound effects from like 2013. You know, the usual classic spring sound effects from modern springs, and even the sound effect sounds muffled as fuck. The jump is straight from Sonic Dash, and the sound mixing is horrible. Like, literally, the spring sound effect is so muffled compared to like the other sound effect. It's a mess, and people might go, oh, you're just nitpicking. Why is it a big deal if they're using classic spring sound effects from modern? Yes, I think the modern spring sound effects are better, but it's not just about that, okay? It shows that the game is not a proper main series title, right? And I know it's not, but I'm saying these are the kind of things that highlight it. It's like, we know that any hardcore Sonic fan knows the difference between a classic spring sound effect and a modern spring sound effect. You use the wrong spring sound effect, it makes it feel like there's no care put into things, right? I mean, to be fair, Lost World used the modern spring for all the springs, even the weird classic ones that just disappeared and showed up in the walls when you were like supposed to hit the wall and the spring showed up. I don't know. But Frontiers had both modern and classic springs and still differentiated the sound effects between the two. I'm just saying. Obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of injecting classic elements and stuff into modern games. I didn't like the fact that they put badniks in Dream Team instead of like more modern looking enemies. But yeah, going back to the PO6 point, the physics there are a lot better. Sound effects are way more polished. I mean, it's like 06 sound effects, right? And to put these levels in something like that, I think would be really fun to try out. But right now, as I said before, Beats has been trying to put these in Frontier cyberspace, and you can already see how nice it looks. Just goes to show that there is potential with this Dream Team level design. But whatever level designers that are talented and Hardlight that are killing it right now are being held back by the fact that it's a mobile game budget, by the fact that the soundtrack is so horrible. The physics aren't perfect, but they're not bad. The flight is horrible. Tails is flight and Cream because they pretty much control the same. The flight mechanics are horrible. Every other flight in every other main series Sonic game controls better than this, okay, in my opinion. That was the most egregious thing, right? Even the gliding wasn't that great. Like, it was very tanky and it fell really quickly. Like, physics could use a lot of work. For those of you wondering, the momentum is not like crazy. There are moments where it feels like there's momentum, but the rails definitely is not those moments. Don't expect anything crazy when it comes to that. The flight literally kills all momentum. I don't care if you boost jumped and did the craziest jump. If you try and fly, it's like momentum is dead. But the level designers in Hard Light, they've pretty much done a better job than the majority of Sonic Team post generations, okay? I remember in my stream, people were asking me like, would you put this over Colors? Would you put this over Forces? Would you put this over, you know, this and that game, Frontiers, whatever? Like, and as I said, like, the level design is great, but the whole package is important, right? So I'm not going to do the whole compare it to a million main series games thing, because it's like elements I prefer and elements I don't prefer. It's not black and white. But in some ways, that is a good thing, right? I mean, it being held back by being just a mobile game shows that there was actual quality there, and it was held back. If it was just generic and mid, I'd be like, yeah, it's a generic and mid mobile game. But I'm like, no, the quality in there, the level design is so good that it's like, this could be more than a mobile game, right? It's kind of like when Sonic Rush came out, right? Like, Dims were just there like, yeah, we're just making a little side DS game while the big leagues of Sonic Team make Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06. And then Sonic Rush comes out and it's like the greatest 2D game ever created. I said what I said. I stand on business. And after it came out, everyone knew it was critically acclaimed, and it was like, oh. Then Sonic Team went, we're about to rinse this for decades. This formula is it. I believe that Hard Light is cooking here. I believe it's like one of those things that Sonic Team might have to go, maybe Frontiers 2, maybe we could take some of these elements from Dream Team and put it into our main game. I mean, Sega owns Hard Light, right? Maybe they could pull some of those level design devs from Dream Team and be like, you know, Frontiers 2 could use some of your help, you know, put them on the job, you know what I mean? Like, as it stands, this is the summary for those of you who want the soundbite, okay? Open Zone and Frontiers, greater than Dream Team. Dream Team greater than Cyberspace. You put Dream Team in replacement of Cyberspace with more polish of like an actual big budget release, then Frontiers becomes a better game. That's the soundbite. There you go. As a game that kids are gonna play on their iPad, they're gonna have a whole lot of fun with this. They're not going to be nitpicking and being as critical as I am. I'm seeing it as the potential that it could be as a big boy release, but as a phone game, it does its job. Personally, I wouldn't put it over Runners though, because if I'm in phone game mode, I'd rather play a phone game that's S tier at what it's trying to be, which is a phone game, instead of a game like this, which is more ambitious, but then also ends up being compared to actual fully 3D games and then feels like it's held back in the process because it's a phone game, right? So it's a catch-22. It's like an iPad, right? It's like a tablet. To me, a tablet is kind of useless, right? I don't think they're bad devices, but I find them to be useless. I've owned a few and I never use them because, like, if I want to do something on a very portable device, I will use my phone. That can go in my pocket and it can do everything the tablet can do. You might be thinking, well, the tablet's got a bigger screen, but I don't really care, because if I'm going to take a bigger screen, I'm just going to take my laptop, because that has an actual laptop operating system and I can do far more with that than I can do with the tablet. Unless you're an artist and you need like that touchpad drawing shit on the tablet. But for me, the tablet is this weird middle ground where it's not better than the phone at portability and it's not better than the laptop at functionality, so I never feel the need to use it. But if you're a kid and you just want to play phone games on a bigger screen, then the tablet has a use. And for all those kids who are going to be playing Dream Team on their mother's iPad that they haven't replaced in 10 years, this is going to be a fun experience for them. I think an endless mode would probably be what you need to make this game more replayable, because as it stands, it's like once you beat it, you're kind of like done, right? But if they had like an endless mode, which was like procedurally generated but using the same kind of level design tropes, then you've got an excuse to just like keep going and keep playing it to see how long you can go and rack your score up, just like Sonic Dash, right? But without that, and without some kind of online multiplayer, it's kind of like a one and done for me, in my opinion. I know they said the Tails challenges were going to update, but I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it for that. I mean, if it was a free phone game, then maybe I'll whip out my phone and play the newest challenges every week if there was incentive to unlock something like a new character or something. But on an Apple Arcade game I'm paying on a monthly, like, I don't see why I'll keep my subscription just for that. That's all I'm saying. In general, we are starting to get to that point where mobile games feel like they're being held back by being on the phone, because like Mario Kart Tour had some solid tracks in it, and it was so solid that Nintendo thought it would be good to take some of them and just put them in the main Mario Kart with slightly touched up graphics, and people are eating it the fuck up and they're paying DLC money for it. And that's just the natural result of phones getting more powerful in general, right? More power means you could do more things, but then it starts to get dangerously close to the main stuff, and then it's like, well, I guess we should just combine the two, right? We're not quite at the point of phones just running all the same shit as consoles. I mean, maybe if you've got the latest flagship like Resident Evil came to the iPhone 15 Pro. But for a game like Dream Team that's running on things as low as the iPhone 6s and $30 secondhand Apple TVs, they're not going to be doing that shit right now. Phone games are supposed to access the wider market, which means they need to run on budget devices. I don't know how many years it's going to take before the budget devices and the old ass phones are capable of running the AAA games that are on consoles. I just hope that some of these ideas are extracted and maybe people that did the level design for this are brought onto the main Sonic team so that we can see better cyberspace levels and not 20 green hills. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Sonic Dream Team. Did you enjoy the game? Are you still pouting because it's stuck on Apple Arcade? Do you think it shows potential for what we can see in future 3D Sonic games? And of course, a big shout out to all my channel members. If you want to become a channel member, you can click the join button next to the subscribe button. But yeah, thanks you guys for watching. It's been real. The Remy, yeah.